Good night. Tonight our story is called Eyewitnesses. Jesus told Peter, James, and John that they would follow him up into a very high mountain to pray. He had told them moments before that there were some standing here which shall not taste of death till they see the Son of Man coming into his kingdom. As far as his disciples were concerned, they thought Jesus was referring to an earthly kingdom, and the sons of Zebedee had staked their claim on sitting on either side of Jesus. Of course, this was not what Jesus meant, so he spared no words in his rebuke and correction. I can imagine the whispers as the men tried to figure out which of them would be around to see Jesus crowned king and oust the Roman Empire once and for all. But this was not what Jesus meant either. As Jesus walked with the 3 disciples, who were more likely still caught up in the fact that they were the chosen ones, he must have continued his efforts to teach them who he really was. The mountain got steeper, and the disciples grew weary with each step. The sun had hidden itself behind the mountain by now, so the climb became harder as they tried to pick their way around the rocks and shrubs that lined the path. I can hear Peter grumbling because by now he was becoming sleepy and he could not see why Jesus was taking them so high up in the mountain. One by one, the men slowed down as their eyes grew heavy with sleep. But Jesus had stopped walking by now, and he started praying earnestly. Peter, James, and John sat on the ground, finally, and leaned against a large stone as they fought hard to stay awake and be in the moment. Have you ever tried to stay awake to watch your favorite movie, but you wanted to sleep so bad that you can hardly keep your eyes open? Well, I think that is exactly how the 3 disciples felt that night. Something was different about how Jesus was praying. Suddenly, Jesus' face started to glow as the glory of God shone on him. Even his garments were glowing. There seemed to have been a magnificent light all around Jesus as he prayed to his Father. And so the sleepiness was slowly replaced by curiosity and awe. Jesus looked like a king. No, Jesus looked like God. Peter started rubbing his eyes because he wanted to be sure he was not dreaming. Were there 2 men standing beside Jesus? How could they have appeared beside him like that? And who were these men? And Jesus was speaking with the men, and they were ministering unto him. Can you guess who the men were? Oh yes, they were Moses and Elijah. But how can this even be possible? Hadn't these two men died many years before? Well, yes and no. You see, Moses had died on Mount Nebo, but God had raised him from the dead and took him to heaven, as Jude explained in his book. As for Elijah, well, he had been taken up into heaven in a chariot of fire. So God had sent these two men to be with Jesus. Moses represented the people who would have died before the second coming of Christ and will be resurrected. And Elijah represents those who will never taste death and will be taken to heaven to live with Jesus forever. What a happy, wonderful, glorious morning that will be when we who are faithful will get to see and go home with the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, Jesus, the Messiah. Now, just as Moses and Elijah had appeared out of nowhere, they vanished again, and Jesus was left standing by himself. Finally, Peter found his voice. Let us make 3 booths, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah, Jesus. Of course, that was such a foolish thing to say in such a sacred moment. But Jesus did not answer, nor did he chide Peter, as he usually would. For in that very moment a cloud came down and covered Jesus. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. The beautiful, rich, yet powerful voice that came from the cloud could not be mistaken. It was God. Like he had done at Jesus' baptism, God had once again made it clear that Jesus was his Son. Terror struck all 3 men, and they fell on their faces in the presence of God. We cannot tell how long they would have cowered in fear in that position, but the next voice they heard was that of Jesus saying, "Get up, don't be afraid." And then they looked up and saw Jesus only. Jesus knew that Peter, James, and John would not only be transformed by that amazing experience, but they would also tell everyone they met and even write about it too. And so years later, Peter wrote, "We were eyewitnesses of His Majesty." And what an amazing scene that must have been. In my mind's eye, I am trying to picture the next time There will be such an amazing scene. This will be at the coming of Christ, when He will come in all His glory. And there will be thousands of angels all around Him. I want to see that day. And I want you to see it as well. By grace, you will. Good night.